All right. So, hello everyone. I'm Robbie, and
Hi,
this is
I'm Ale.
and that's Ale, as she just introduced. And yeah, we're just basically we wanted to make a little informational video about CBYX. We're basically just going to be talking about general structure, some of the basic things, some application tips, that sort of thing. Everything we say is it's very informal. We're not like sponsored by anyone, or we're not like with CBYX doing this. This is just something like we thought it would be useful. Um, and so we're doing it. So that's
Exactly.
that. So yes, and also this is a video for the CBYX Vocational Youth Exchange. We'll talk more about the other two types of exchanges there are. I want to say this is one of the lesser known ones, but it can be kind of
Yeah,
confusing, especially when you're applying, like which one's which. So yeah, I guess Ale, if you wanted to talk about the three branches and kind of just the general overview.
yeah. So I guess what gives us the credibility to speak about this is the fact that we did the vocational exchange. So Robbie and I were part of the 25 Americans that were sent to Germany um, for the Congress-Bundestag youth exchange, and within the youth exchange, the vocational exchange. We were there from July 2019 until March 2020. It was intended for us to stay until June of 2020. However, because of coronavirus, I believe it was all US Department of State programs that were studying abroad were terminated. And so we were sent home. Um, and to just kind of give you guys a bit of an explanation as to what CBYX is, it stands for Congress-Bundestag Youth Exchange. It is essentially a bilateral exchange that is run by both the US government and the German government. And within CBYX, you can find three branches. So there's going to be the vocational exchange, which is what we did. It has 25 people, and in this case, only Americans go to Germany. All basically recent U.S. citizens, high school graduates that intend to stay for like a gap year program abroad in Germany. So that's a vocational exchange, what we did. And then we also have just the classic like youth high school exchange, which has about 250 um, I guess like scholars admitted. Although I think the number does tend to vary throughout the years. And in the high school exchange, you basically spend like a high school year abroad in Germany. And with this program in particular, the United States sends Americans to spend a high school year in Germany, and Germany sends Germans to spend a high school year in the US. And then the third one, and this is going to be for older candidates, mostly college students, people up to the age of 24 are eligible to apply, is going to be the CBYX Young Professionals. So the Young Professionals is actually quite similar to how like the Fulbright program runs in Germany. And if you're interested in looking at the Fulbright program, you do have to be somebody with already an undergraduate degree, and we can probably link below information on Fulbright. But yeah, Young Professionals quite similarly parallels Fulbright in the sense that it sends 75 Americans to Germany and 75 Germans to America, and you basically do a mesh of a semester at like what would be like college or university, and then a semester of like internships and whatnot. Some distinctions between the three, obviously age, and then also what you do. Your year is very different according to which program you apply to. I think that when you're 18, you have, or actually 18 and a half, you are eligible to apply to all three. So you could hypothetically do like the high school exchange, even though even if you've already graduated from high school, it depends on you if you want to do another year of high school. Some people do, some people don't. With the vocational exchange, you have to be 18 or 19 to apply, and so you're eligible for that. And actually with the young professionals, you have to be at least 18 and a half. So hypothetically, if you're already 18 and a half, you could apply to the young professionals as well. So kind of being in that like middle age gives you many options. But yeah, age is definitely a distinction, what you do abroad. Also the fact of like whether you live with a host family or not. The younger people, that meaning vocational exchange and high school exchange, have to live with a host family. And then the young professionals, I believe it's optional. So it's kind of like a very long, but at the same time gist of what the three branches of CBYX consist of.
Yeah. Yeah, and actually, I'm pretty sure with the last one, I might be, I haven't done like a ton of research on this, so I mean, you guys watching definitely like check this yourselves. But I think there is some level of undergraduate schooling that you have to have done in addition to the age requirement. So like your
Okay.
average, like just coming out of high school, 18-and-a-half-year-old, I think likely wouldn't be eligible for the young professionals.
Okay.
Um,
So it's like for
I don't know for
people,
sure though, but
mostly for people that have already either graduated with their undergraduate degree or are taking like a leave of absence at an already like a university that they've already been attending. That makes a lot of sense. I think you're right, Robbie.
so anyhow, yeah, and then we're just now going to go into some of the general application advice. So I will, how do I get out of this? I, let's see here.
There you go.
Then, okay, so this is kind of the form you get to. And again, this is for the Congress-Bundestag Vocational Scholarship Program. So, obviously you see here just your average kind of stuff. For those who are applying using Common App, or really most any college applications, I want to say, like you're going to have stuff like this. Obviously, like answer honestly. What they're looking for here, I think, um, they're wanting to see like well-roundedness. I mean, this is definitely a place that cares less about like, oh, did you get a 1600 on the SAT?
Yeah.
Which, I mean, I don't think anyone in our program actually did. Like,
No.
they care more about like, oh, like what are your interests? What are you trying to explore? Who are you as a person? What do you bring to the table? That kind of thing. Would you be, essentially they view this as a program for like junior ambassadors. So I mean, with that, I mean they're wanting to see that you would represent the U.S. well. So that's kind of what this is. In terms of travel, domestic and international, they are looking. So I mean, if you haven't traveled much, that's certainly no problem. They're not expecting you to have traveled. For those who have, though, that's also not a downside. I know that some people who were applying were kind of thinking like, oh, like if I say I've been like traveling, will they kind of think like, oh, this person doesn't need it, blah 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 blah. Um, that's really not. I just be honest on it. It's not like this isn't the section of the application to overthink.
Yeah. Definitely has to do a lot more with like who you are as a person. And then like and basically like your travels or your grades or your extracurriculars will be considered, but not necessarily like conditional in the sense that you have to satisfy X, Y, and Z or else you will not be admitted at all. It's definitely, at least with this exchange, I think it's a lot less black and white than say your traditional applying to like a university, and so forth.
Hmm. Hmm. Yeah. And then future career field, I mean, obviously they're not expecting you to have everything figured out, but this is a vocational exchange. So this is the one for like if you want to be in baking. We had a few people like that in our our program. Um, some other people, I believe, worked in the service industry. So I think they worked at like hotels, stuff like that. That would be what you could put here. But as
Yeah.
well, there was a big portion of people who were into like business, international business, international relations, politics, that kind of thing. And there's definitely a space for you in that here. I mean, don't.
Education as well. I
Oh
think
yeah.
that there are definitely opportunities for people that are interested in like the realm of education, especially the lower tier it is. So access to like internships in like elementary schools or preschools is definitely very attainable. So if you're interested in going into that career field, CBYX definitely has options and opportunities for you.
Yeah. Yeah. And I had two internships at, um, one was like at an English school slash, it was more of a tutor school slash preschool. And then as well at like a middle school, high school. So, I mean, it's just to say it is pretty common. And if you're into that, definitely apply. It's a very interesting experience. Um, so yeah, international exchange, stuff like what appeals you most about being in Germany. Um, they do want to make sure in this that you can handle yourself to a certain degree. I mean, obviously you're just coming out of high school for most of you, for most of us really. They're not expecting you to be like a full-on adult. But I mean, you're going to be away, you're going to be out of your comfort zone, you're going to be in a completely new element for what amounts to pretty much a year. And they kind of, a lot of this is just probing to make sure like, do you have the skill set to be able to handle that? I mean, that's part of the reason they have things like, you know, a time when you stayed away from your parents. And that's really what they're getting at there. And, you know, what appeals to you most about becoming an exchange student in Germany? You know, obviously this is a Germany program. They really want to make sure that you do like Germany. At least the way it was told to me from previous participants is just that, yeah, they want to make sure like you're in it for Germany. You're not just in it to like have a very low cost / free
Get
gap
ticket
year. Because I
abroad.
mean, yeah. They don't want they don't want you to see it as a vacation, because I think they have, the sense I get is that in the past there have been some people like that, and so they're definitely they're going to be trying to feel that out
Yeah,
during your
I
application.
I agree. And I think, you know, even considering that, like, you don't necessarily have to be an expert on Germany. For example, I applied to the program because I knew someone that had done the program, and I just thought it was like a really cool opportunity, something really unique and different than the traditional route that people tend to take after high school. But I had no prior German experience. Honestly, like, knew minimal information about Germany. And I think like it doesn't necessarily have to be that you're like super passionate about Germany and you already know everything there is to know about Germany, because at the same time, like, this program is for people to explore and learn something new. And if you already know everything, then like what would be the point of you, you know, spending a year abroad? Although there are some people that already have a lot of experience with Germany and are still admitted to this program. So it's a very, I suppose, applicant by applicant basis. But yeah, like, you don't need to be an expert. I know that in my application, I just kind of thought about like, okay, like, what do I know about Germany already that that intrigues me? And I talked about history because I'm really interested in history. So kind of like World War II, things like that. Also, I've watched a lot of documentaries on like subcultures in Berlin's. Always thought that was like super fascinating. So that's what I mentioned. But honestly, aside from, I'd say, the minimal knowledge that your average American high schooler has about Germany, I didn't really have anything beyond that. So it's definitely like, you do have to give it some thought, because there's, you know, even if you've never been to Germany or known anything about Germany, there has to be something, you know. You can think about like history, culture, music, etc. But you don't have to be an expert either. So it's really just being honest, and I think mostly showing that like curiosity and that openness and eagerness to learn, I think, is what's really important.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, if you can show that you're gonna like take this in stride, take your difficulties in stride, be able to like really get out there, um, just approach everything with an open heart and just kind of like, you know, be there to drive. They like that.
Yeah,
Now it's
yeah,
not to
they
say that
love that.
like, yeah, yeah, and of course, like if you're more like career focused or however you might want to say it, um, that has a place here too. But
Exactly.
it's just to say, yeah, like LA was saying, this is not like a, like, you're not applying to be, like, a German historian, you
Exactly.
know?
Yeah. Yeah. And I think, you know, with that particular subset of questions, also don't be intimidated. They ask you these questions, and it's because I think, you know, this program, if you are admitted and you do have the opportunity to go, definitely has a lot of, I suppose, cushion. It's a very interesting middle ground where you can experience this newfound sense of independence, being in a new country, having flexibility to travel, probably to like a completely new degree than you ever did in the United States. But at the same time, I would say that Open Door International and your host family and Nacel Open Door still provide a very solid support system. So don't be intimidated by these questions. It's like, spending a year abroad obviously will not be perfect, because nothing is perfect. Anyone's freshman year of college has its ups and downs and so forth. And don't be scared. I know that a lot of people are definitely scared of thinking of like an entire year in Germany, but really a year is not that long. It feels like a long time because we're young, but in the grander scope of things, it isn't that long of a time. And we can definitely like guarantee that, considering that our program got cut short, like it was over in honestly
Mhm.
what felt like a matter of seconds. So don't be intimidated by these questions. And if you have some sort of like, I guess, like sense of like insecurity or fear, as any individual would, don't be afraid to show that aspect of yourself either. Like, you really don't have to be perfect. I think you just have to be human, which sounds very cliche, but I think a natural and organic application significantly more than, you know, the classic like
Mhm.
student that can check off a bunch of boxes like, yeah, you know, I have the GPA, I have the extracurriculars, I have like the test scores, but like what else is there?
Mhm, mhm. Yeah, and I mean, on that note, like, um, and I don't think this is what Ollie was trying to imply, but I think it would raise some alarm bells if you were kind of talking about like, oh yeah, I had like a really hard time doing this, and this, and like I don't know like how I would do honestly. Like it's kind of
Yeah.
freaking me out the idea of going to Germany. Like that's not like don't do that. Um,
Don't
I
sell
think
yourself short either.
yeah, I think it's fine to be open, but portray some you want to make sure to give some confidence in like your ability to handle things, handle
Right.
situations, and say like yeah, like um, yeah, it might be kind of hard, and like I'm aware that that's a possibility. But I think I have the skill set, and I think I have the ability to be able to handle that.
And you're willing to try.
I think
Yeah.
that's a good way. Yeah, and I think that's a good way to maintain kind of the authenticity that you're trying to portray, while also, making sure you don't come off as like maybe not being able to handle it, that kind of thing.
Yeah. Definitely agree.
So yeah, and then this is kind of just, survey information. Um, da, 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 da. Uh, Personal essays. I had a hard, like, I don't know. I don't know how this was for you, LA, but like, I, I think I spent like maybe 4 or 5 times longer on like the CBYX application than I did like any college application. Like, it took me
Really?
a long time. Yeah, well, because I rewrote like I don't know, SAB especially, I rewrote that like 2 or 3 times. Same thing with SAA. I rewrote it at least once. Well, I guess was it different for you?
Um, I'm pretty sure I was like short on time when I applied, so you know, what was made is what was submitted. But I these were definitely tricky questions in the sense that you know, especially if you're like a senior that's, you know, pumping out these college essays left and right. These are questions that like universities aren't asking you, you know, like a university isn't going to be like, how is your family important to you? So I think it's definitely hard to think about, well, not like hard to think about in the sense that like it's hard to answer, how is your family important to you? But it's not usually questions that like you're prepared for, I suppose. Like you don't have the same like, I guess, mechanical response
Mhm.
as like a question that's like, why is this university like a good fit? And you can talk about like X program and whatever. So yeah, I think they were definitely, they were tricky for me because I felt like I was writing something really cheesy, and I didn't think that was a reflection of like who I was. So that was mostly what I struggled with. But I don't think, yeah, I didn't write it like 4 or 5 times. I spent some time on it, but not as much time as you, Robbie.
Yeah, so I mean, just goes to show there's a wide variety of like what there is. I mean, the guy I learned about this program from, I'm pretty sure he found out about the existence of it like 3 days before the deadline. So
Wow.
he like did the whole application in those 3 days basically. Whereas I had known about it for quite a while. I was like, okay, blah 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 blah. Make sure to get this. I probably spent a good like month working on this. So just to say, it's all over the place. Um, yeah, so I mean, to talk about the letter to the host family, an important aspect of this program is really like first and foremost, this program sees itself as a cultural exchange, and you're going to have your host family, and that is priority number one. Um, so, I mean, really make sure, don't write this trying to think, what do they want to hear? Write this really being honest about it. And definitely like, and by that, I don't mean like, I don't know, like for some people, I could see that being interpreted as saying like, oh, like don't like make sure you don't sound like you're being a downer. Like that isn't the case for
Yeah.
everybody, obviously, when they're kind of like, but there's definitely, I think for some people, sort of the thought that like when you're writing it for what they want to hear, like you're sounding all preppy and like this and that and like blah 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 blah. Um, they do want a little bit of that, I think.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, I
I
mean,
mean,
yeah, like don't be, yeah.
your host family is going to see your application, so no one's going to want to take in a
Mhm.
kid that's like, oh, like I don't care about anything, you know. And
Yeah.
it really, I think the program does its best to find the most chemistry possible between like you, like, and I mean, there's only so much one can get out of an application on paper, which is why I think it's like, I would say actually SAB is perhaps, I don't know if more important would be the word, but sorry, not SAB, I mean SAA. SAA could be like a pivotal defining aspect of what your year becomes in Germany. SAA is important in the sense that like that's the essay that your host family is going to be getting. I believe they get both, but in SAA, like that's really where you get to tell them like, so for example, I talked about like I've moved around a lot. I've I have a lot of experience with like Mexican culture. I'm proud of like my Mexican culture and background, like the Spanish language. I like learning new things. I'm interested in politics. I like to do this. I like to do that. And I think I personally feel like I was matched very well with my host family, and my honesty in that essay is partially what resulted in our matching. I think that was a really big ramble that I might just cut out, but yeah.
No, and I think that was good to say. I mean, if I'm being honest so like for example, with my SAA, I think I was thinking a little bit too much about like, oh, like how do I want them to perceive me? And I mean that should definitely be in the back of your mind.
Yeah.
But I think, yeah, and I could tell reading back on it, it didn't have as much authenticity to it. And that's not to say that I lied or that it was outright false or anything like that, but just to say that like, for the sake of a better host family match, it is important that you try to bring out your personality and think of this, like try and understand it from their perspective. Because I guess there's sort of two parts to your application. There's the application, whether you're going to get in, but then after that, most of your application goes towards finding you a new host family, or not a new host family, but finding you a host family, all that kind of stuff. And so it's important to think about that while you're writing this essay as well. And to understand, like, what is it that they have to work with? This is pretty much the place where you're going to be able to convey the most depth of character in yourself. So this is important in terms of host family placement. I was under the impression that the host family only gets SAA. That might be incorrect, though I know the people placing you definitely, even though the people placing you with your host family and finding your host family aren't the ones necessarily who decide who gets in and not, they will be seeing both SAA and SAB. Yeah, I mean, SAB, similar kind of stuff. Again, write it authentically. And this one, I definitely, I think I did that here. Just describe the dynamics, describe like what you see, observe it. Some of it I think that they're wanting to see is that you can do some introspection. They want to see that you are self-aware. But as well, this is just another aspect of getting to know, how do we place this person with a host family that would be best for them.
Yeah, I definitely agree.
So, yeah, so that's that. At the same time, like, don't like over stress it. Like, make sure you don't have spelling mistakes, blah blah blah, that kind of thing. But I guess don't like overthink it. Perhaps.
Yeah, treat it as you would.
But at the same time, I guess, yeah.
Treat it as you would any other college essay, in the context that you want to submit something that's like, you can sell yourself, but at the same time, you seem like an actual human being. It's grammatically like clean, no spelling mistakes. Definitely get somebody to revise it if you have the time. I think it would be great if you have those resources at your school. Like a college counselor or an English teacher, I think would be good, as anyone would do with like any piece of writing that you're submitting to something. Yeah.
Yeah. And that's really just to look more professional. Yeah. Then, your signatures, your handy dandy signatures, then demographic information. And that's pretty much the bulk of the application.
Demographic information. Wait, can you scroll back down, Rami?
Yeah.
As you can see, optional. Fully says statistical purposes only. That being said, if you feel like you have some sort of barrier to potentially becoming a candidate for this program, still apply. I think that, you know, the first step, and especially considering that there is no admission fee, the first step is getting in. And I think if they admit you, obviously it's because they want you in their program and they think you'd be an excellent, you know, scholar abroad representing the United States and whatnot.
Mm-hmm.
And I think, you know, if you're just very honest, like, I'm super passionate about this, this is something that I want to do, but I have these barriers, you know, X, Y, and Z, perhaps something can be worked out. But really, honestly, the first step is applying. Apply, get in, don't worry about the other things, and then, you know, you can move forward. Because honestly, and once again, this isn't like sponsored by Nacel Open Door or CBYX or anything, but I personally definitely think that there are, you know, there are alternatives, whether it be like fundraising, you know, like community fundraising where you're telling people like, hey, like, I really want to spend a year abroad, please support me. Or perhaps the program, you know, has some sort of like resource that they can direct you to. The point is apply, apply, apply. Worry about those barriers later, which I know sounds like a lot to ask for, especially if you're coming from like a low income background, or say that maybe like culturally in your family, like exchanges like these aren't really like approved of. Like, I know that like studying abroad for perhaps like some first generation kids is definitely like your parents like don't want you leaving the house. Who cares about that? Apply, do it. I know that obviously some other barriers would be that this program does require like, I know that you do have to submit evidence of your citizenship of the United States, but aside from that, in the general application, I don't think any other like formal documents or anything are required. But I don't fully remember. I might be wrong.
Yeah, I think you're right. That's to the best of my recollection how it is. Yeah, there's no application fee.
Exactly. And our experience,
I think it really would be worth.
Our experience with the program coordinators, I think, has made us make these like conclusions that they're, you know, these are people that are really passionate about sending young people abroad and having that like once in a lifetime experience of just learning something new and immersing yourself in a new culture and whatnot. So yeah, just and any questions that you have, let them know, email them, reach out. I think that showing interest, showing engagement is very important.
And showing initiative.
Yeah.
Too. I think they care about that. Yeah. So anyhow, yeah, that largely concludes the application portion.
Oh, it would probably be good to mention that you do need letters of recommendation.
Yes. Yeah. Don't procrastinate on this.
Don't procrastinate those. Yeah.
Don't. Oh yeah, man. Like
I believe you need two.
Yeah, you need two. You need. I can't remember the details. I want to say one is from like a non-teacher like club or like someone important in your community, and then another one is like an academic recommendation.
Yeah. They technically
and again,
have
academic
to, like, nominate you, I believe, but it's like
you ask for nomination basically.
Right.
I think, or sometimes people can be nominated, but I mean, I know that I just like ask for nomination.
Yeah, that was the same thing.
Yeah, I mean, it's just to say. Also, I think for the academic one, maybe I'm misremembering exactly how it's like said to be, but again, this isn't an academic scholarship kind of thing. Your grades are not like the most important thing. They're looking for personality, they're looking for character, that kind of stuff. But yeah, main thing, just don't procrastinate. Like, I know you can procrastinate on like your college app if you're applying to college, like, or like that kind of like stuff, but it is a different kind of application.
Right.
So.
Yeah, and just out of respect for the people that would be writing your letter of recommendation, and it's the same thing. It's really the same thing as like the Common App or whatever. Give your teachers time, like teachers / like club coordinators or coaches or whatever. Give them time because you want them to write you something that is good. And if there happens to be a problem or something, I don't know. It's great to have that cushion. So if anything, if you're considering applying, I would say start with the letters of recommendation and then work your way down.
Yeah.
That's the way that I did it, and it worked out for me.
Yep. So then now, yeah, we're going to talk just a little bit about just kind of the overall structure. Like, say you do get accepted, here's a little rundown of like what happens. So let's see, maybe I can move this so it's more out of the way. Is that, oh, no, no. Oh,
I think
geez.
you're good like that. It looks good.
Yeah, there we go.
And I will, okay. Well, our little like face bubbles are kind of in the way, but we'll ignore that for now.
Oh, is it?
It's fine.
I thought it was
All right. So what this, I suppose like we could refer to as like a flow chart is essentially like, so we're insisting that you apply to CBYX, CBYX, CBYX. What is CBYX? And on your left-hand side, I'm trying to, is the screen flipped or not? Hopefully this is the left-hand side for the viewers, yeah. You're gonna see, so Vereinigte Staaten, that's the German word for United States, and then Deutschland, which is Germany. So obviously this is a bilateral government exchange, sending Americans and Germans exchanging, and the funding is also bilateral in the sense that the US government puts a little and the German government also puts a little. So on the side of the United States, you'll see that basically what starts is that Congress approves like the State Department budget. These programs, as I believe any like federally sponsored programs, are all run under the Department of State. And then the Department of State is essentially like who like allocates. They're the people that like allocates the money to, you know, a little bit's going to go to like CBYX. Honestly, can't think of any others. I'm assuming like Fulbright would be one. Yeah, that one as well. And then that's when Nacel Open Door and Open Door International come into the picture. So Nacel Open Door is going to be the American side of what the vocational exchange is. By the way, I'm speaking completely in context of the vocational exchange. Nacel Open Door is going to be the US side. Open Door International is going to be the German side. Nacel Open Door is basically responsible for managing the application process. They manage your like pre-workshop, which happens in Georgetown University. It's this 3-day seminar that we'll definitely talk more about in the other videos. So they're the ones that like admit people. If you have any questions about your application process or whatever, should all go to them. So yeah, they, and honestly, in the beginning, they do a lot, but eventually once you physically get to Germany, then involvement kind of stops, although they're always like pending of you, you know, they're always making sure that everything is on track. You have to send these, the monthly like updates, where you talk about like what's going on, like they want to make sure that you're doing well. So that's the Nacel Open Door, and they're actually based in Minneapolis I think it's St. Paul or Minneapolis, I don't know, Twin Cities area in Minnesota. And then we talk about Open Door International. So Open Door International is the German side of what the vocational exchange is. They basically manage everything that happens once you like step into Germany, that being like technical things as we mentioned on the flow chart, like administration, that being like paperwork, visas, insurance, reimbursements, etc. For example, if something medical happens to occur when you're in Germany, they'd obviously help you out with that. They match you with your host families. They also like manage the host families in the sense that they're kind of like the bridge between the two. They assign your area rep. Your area representative is somebody who basically kind of like takes care of you like a mentor, and they're specific to you and or the people that are like close to you in the area. So for example, my area rep had 2 people. It was me and this girl named Julia. So that's what Open Door International does. And then once you physically are in Germany, and this is once you kind of switch over to the German side. So the German side, I guess like the German parallel of what Congress is, also approves their budget. They allocate their money to the programs. And in Germany, you go to language school for 2 months at a place called the AIB, Akademie für Internationale Bildung. Hopefully I didn't butcher that. And AIB is a fantastic place. They're based in Bonn, Germany. So everyone in the vocational exchange spends 2 months in Bonn together before you are matched with your long-term host family in different parts of Germany. I know that this is a lot of new information, but we'll detail more on short-term and long-term host families in the next video. What you do at AIB, last 2 months, you learn German with them. Split into 2 groups, so the beginner and the intermediate. I had never learned German before, so I was in the beginner group. Robbie already had German experience, so he was in the intermediate. They organized a lot of like cultural and like group outings for us, so we got to do some awesome stuff, not only in the Bonn area, but also Cologne, like one of my favorite trips was personally this like river cruise tour that we did we rode down the Rhine River south to this like valley area. It was beautiful.
Mm-hmm.
The
Wine
time in
country.
Bonn is so much fun. I loved being in Bonn, and although your time at AIB is short, it's amazing. AIB is such a fun time. I loved it so much. But yeah, that's basically kind of how the program very, I suppose, vaguely or from a more skeletal level
Mm-hmm.
structures up.
Yeah, yeah, and I mean this is a lot of info.
Yeah.
You don't need to know this for your application. This is just like if you're interested, if you're curious, that kind of thing. All of this will be drilled into you so many times, like you're gonna be like, yeah, like don't worry if you didn't like catch everything.
Yeah.
Also, to talk about a confusing thing, and honestly, like we didn't really learn about it until after the AIB portion that much. It can be a little confusing. I wouldn't worry about it too much, but yeah, like all I said, they're essentially they're the ones actually, I think, if I understand correctly, they're the ones who find your long-term host family. So you're with a short-term host family while you're with AIB, and that AIB does, and that's all their own little program. And then you move over to your long-term host family, and that is found by your area rep, which is, and they are volunteers for ODI, and that can be anywhere within Germany. Most people are either in Nordrhein-Westfalen, which is like the kind of area in and around Bonn,
Yeah.
because
It
that's one of
is
the most populous
the
ones.
most densely populated area of Western Europe. So
Oh,
throw
there you
that
go.
fact out
Yeah, yeah, yeah. So yeah, so there, and then there was like I think 5 people who were in Berlin. I want to say 3 people in the like Stuttgart or oh crap, what's that place called? Frankfurt. Yeah, and
yeah.
then
Stuttgart and
yeah.
oh my gosh, what's the southern German city name? Stuttgart and
It's Frankfurt, right?
no, I
What?
was thinking of the other one where Kate
Oh,
was.
oh. Then there's also oh geez.
Oh my
She was the
map.
only one. Oh wait, Amy was also there. Okay. It was it's really close to France. That would be a cool
Oh
place
my
to be. If
gosh.
you're into skiing, that I've heard is very nice.
I'm looking it up. I'm looking at Freiburg.
Oh yeah. Yeah. So yeah. We had and then we had a
3
couple
people
people.
in the Frankfurt area, 1 person in Stuttgart, 2 people in the general Freiburg vicinity, and then
One person in Bremen, I think.
1 person in Bremen, 1 person in Hanover, 5 people in Berlin,
Okay.
no
Yeah, yeah.
one in Bayern,
Yeah.
German, Bavaria, English. Yeah.
Mhm. Yeah, yeah, and then yeah, sometimes I think in years past, I want to say like if you guys have seen the Austin Perkins videos, which I assume many of you have, I'm pretty sure he was placed in Nuremberg or somewhere around there, so that is Bavaria.
Oh, okay. I
Um,
didn't know that.
yeah, but yeah, I think it's pretty rare though for former DDR to be where someone is placed. Though we did
Aside
have
from Berlin.
someone who was placed in. It was only for a little bit that because we got sent back early, so there wasn't much time he spent there. But he was placed in oh I can't remember the name. It's like Schleswig-Holstein. But that's basically the northern German part to the
Oh, the
east.
island?
Yeah, the island to the east of Denmark. And you're right on the Baltic Sea. You know, I was going to visit him up there.
Oh, wow.
It sounded pretty cool and nice. But anyhow, yeah,
Oh, I
point
see.
is,
Yeah.
you can.
Schleswig-Holstein.
Oh, yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, so point is, you can be placed
Pronunciation.
anywhere. That was kind of our roundabout way of saying that. Um, and so that's what ODI does. They're and that's really with whom you spend the most time, because that's the other 8 months or 10 months essentially. But yeah. I mean, it's definitely like when you're like actually in it and you're like doing it like each week is like it's just so
Something new.
yeah. Yeah, I mean it's just so compact. Even when you're just like living your like everyday life and you're like, oh, I'm good. Like even after like the like coolness of like your like shiny new internship kind of like wears off and it's like, oh, back to the old grind. Like even then, it's just cool, you know, because you're only
Yeah.
there for like but a little bit of time in the grand scheme of things. So it'll feel really long when you're there. then I think there's often the mid-year seminar, and that's in like mid-January usually. And then that's kind of when you realize like, oh, we only have like 4 more months
Yeah.
basically. And all of a sudden, so it feels like it'll go on forever. And I'm pretty sure there's an Austin Perkins. I feel like I know everything about Austin Perkins videos. I
Oh my
watched them way
gosh.
too much before applying, but
I haven't
there
seen
was an Austin Perkins video where I'm pretty sure he was with, I think her name was Ginger Lee, and they talked about how it'll feel like you're there forever, and it'll be like a long time, and then you'll get to Berlin seminar, and it'll feel like, oh my God, we have no time left. And that is, I would say, true. Definitely.
Yeah, definitely agree that it's accurate. Everybody at one point enters kind of like a mid-year funk prior to the
Yeah.
Berlin seminar or after. Mine was definitely prior. I think the rain every day, 24/7, really got to me. But that's I think that's a topic for another video. But
Yeah. Yeah.
but yeah, I would say that the learning experience is definitely like exponential. You know, they start introducing these, you know, you begin at the Georgetown seminar and you learn this like handful of things about like the people that run the program, and here are like some things to expect in Germany. And it's very like, you're going to be in Georgetown and you're sitting up the seminar and you're like, wow, this is taking forever. Like, is this ever going to end? And then boom, like you get to Germany. The moment that you step into Bonn, it's like so quick. Like you're thrown into like your, well, not like thrown, but you meet like your new like short-term host family. And oh my gosh, it was so crazy for me. Like I remember feeling so overwhelmed because we just like drove into Bonn and like we get to like the AIB and it's like, gosh, like what's this building? And by the time you figure out what this building is, it's like, okay, time to go home with like your new like host mom. And you're like driving around your new host mom and you're just like, God, like where the hell am I? And then you get home and you're just like having dinner together and it's like, okay. And then the next day you wake up and you have to hop on a bus and get to class. And yeah, just as soon as you step into Bonn, like, and at first it'll probably feel like a lot. The first time I ever rode a bus in Germany, I was freaking out because I had no clue where I was going, didn't speak any German at all, like, also didn't have a lot of experience with public transportation because America. And gosh, like I was terrified. And then eventually you start like getting the hang of it. And if you have a passion for like learning and like exploring and trying new things, you just pick up on things so quickly, and before you know it, you're like a local in Bonn, and you're walking around and you're giving people directions. Well, some people's sense of direction definitely didn't develop as well, but at least for me,
Yeah.
it was like I felt like a local. Like
That's good.
I don't know. I have a map of Bonn like right here in the background, and I see it, and I can visually think of like the city and the public transportation and the way that the trams and trains would go. It's just you learn so much, and it's so exciting. Every day is exciting. Every day you learn something new. It's like terrifying and magical at the same time, but it's amazing.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I wholeheartedly agree with that. Except I don't know, I have a horrible sense of direction. So I was actually, my long-term host family just happened to be also in Bonn, so I actually stayed there the whole year. Um, and I remember I was having some call with someone, and it was like, I don't know, like December or January. Like I'd been there for a while, and I was trying to walk home from the city center, and I kept walking in circles because, like, I could have looked on like my phone, but like I was talking on the phone, and it was kind of like a more formal call. Like I think it was with my like internship boss or something like that. So it's like I couldn't just be like, oh wait, hold on a second. And so I like literally wandered the city center for like half an hour before like figuring out which way to get home. But yeah, that's not the majority experience. And even if it is, you
Still
get to,
fun.
it's a really nice, yeah, it's still fun. It's a really great city center. Um, but yeah, anyhow, yeah, I think that's most of the material for this video, unless, is
Yeah.
there anything else you wanted to bring up?
No, I feel like, you know, for applying, like really just shoot your shot. Honestly, you don't need to be an expert on this program. You don't even need to know a lot about this program. Just apply. Just do it. Because that's what I did. I was very,
Yeah.
I don't know why it never occurred to me to like Google like CBYX Vocational Exchange and like read up on it. I just kind of like, I saw something, I saw that somebody else was doing it, and I was like, okay, like I can do it too.
Yeah.
You know, what's another couple of essays to write? I had already applied to like 15 universities. So, but yeah, apply and future videos gosh, it's so exciting to talk about. We'll get more into detail about like what your year actually looks like. We can even talk about like things that we recommend doing in Bonn, ways to make the most of your experience, ways to cope with the not so great parts of your experience, which will be there. But I think that's what makes it that's what makes it real. So
That's the
apply.
character builder.
Yeah, apply. If you have any questions, reach out to Nacel Open Door. Robbie and I will also put our contact information in the description of this video. Shoot us an email. We're super passionate about answering questions, getting to know other people, and really just encouraging others to embark on this awesome experience, like taking that chance. Yeah, shoot the comments down below. Like and don't be afraid. Don't be afraid to ask. Like, we're only experts because we kind of got thrown into it all, but at one point we were in your position.
Yes, as hard as that is to believe. No.
As hard as it is to believe.
But yeah. And then another thing is, I know that like I applied and I thought like, oh my God, there's like no chance I can get in. There are fewer, like, I don't know the numbers. All I can say is like, it's not like there's 1,000 applicants to this program.
Exactly.
Like fewer people apply than you think. Like you have a better chance than you think. So, you know, just keep that in mind.
Right. And I think that Sue and Carrie have an interesting application process in the sense that I think they admit a lot of people that perhaps those individuals would think like, oh, like I'd never be like a candidate for this, but they'll see something in you. So just give it a shot. And it's partially unfortunate that this program isn't as well known because it's so incredible, but at the same time, use it to your advantage because at the end of the day, like, it doesn't hurt to spend a year abroad in Germany.
Yep. So with that, I guess, shall we conclude our video?
Yeah. So thank you guys for watching. Sorry if this was really long. But we really just wanted to give, there are a lot of questions to be asked and there isn't a lot of information out there. So we really just want to give the best resource possible. But yeah, thank you so much for watching. We really appreciate it. And as always, feel free to contact us.
All right. Have a happy application process, you guys.
Best of luck.